Want to learn how to turn this into this? Follow along to learn how to propagate snake plant from cuttings. Snake plant, also known as Sansevieria, also known as mother-in-law's tongue, are a really interesting houseplant. They're always on lists of plants that you can't kill, plants that don't need a ton of sunlight. They're a fantastic indoor plant, but they also work great outdoors in landscaping in places that don't get too cold. I live in zone 9A or 9B, something like that. They do really great outside where I live. And one of the cool things about them is that they are really easy to propagate. And I recently came across a neighbor who had cut out a ton of snake plant, left them in their front yard with a free sign. So join me on my propagation journey with my snake plant, and hopefully you can get some tips and tricks to get your own free snake plant. I found these snake plant cuttings outside of my neighbor's house with a free sign on them, so I of course grabbed them, put them in the trunk of my car, brought them home, and thought, absolutely, this is great. I'm gonna propagate these. I kind of inspected them for pests and everything, trimmed them up, and made sure that I set them out to callus for a few days, planted them in loose cactus mix, and thought, this is great, free snake plants. However, I think I made the fatal error of watering them after having placed them in soil, which I now think was a big no-no for these snake plants with the full stems, and every single one rotted. Not to be deterred, I ended up taking the leaves, cutting off all the rotten bits, and letting them fully callus over for a long time in order to propagate them from leaf. One snake plant leaf could be cut up into multiple pieces to create many snake plant pups. All right, I'm back with my snake plants. It's been a couple weeks. I set these out to dry, and honestly, some of them are not good. I've thrown away a bunch already. This one was looking good up until literally 2 days ago. That's just gone. That's dead. So it's fine. You know, it was free plants. Some of them are looking good though. Like these are looking hopeful. This one, I'm not going to give up on this one just yet. And in fact, really, I probably could cut these shorter and make more propagations out of them. I'm not sure if I'm too bothered to do that, honestly. But these ones, I'm gonna keep on trying. This one, yeah, it doesn't look good. And we don't want to waste our time with that. But that one could go. It's got a nice calloused edge. These ones, they just don't look great. So I'm going to plant these up in soil because I think that's a pretty safe bet. These are snake plant that I had propagated earlier in some perlite. Some of them were in soil, and I just kind of ran out of room, and I thought this would be a good place to put them. In the meantime, they've been in here a while. I think, let's check and see what's happening. And there you go. There are little small roots. I'll put that back in, but that's a good sign that it's actually propagating, it's rooting, it is not rotting. So I'm gonna gently put this guy back in here like that. Keep it nice and upright. And then I'm just gonna do the same for all of these pieces. Just gently place them in here. And this one trick about propagating snake plant, I don't know if I said, you have to make sure that you get it the top, which is why when I do these cuttings, a lot of times I do this angled cut. Apparently it helps with having more surface area, but it also, if you do smaller cuts, for example this, which is down a piece of a leaf, it could be really confusing knowing where is the bottom and where is the top. So pointy part at the top and angled part at the bottom. So I'm just gonna place these all in here relatively deep. I mean, that's like what, a little bit, like maybe a little more than an inch in the soil. I don't think you need to go too deep because again, they are just propagations. This one's falling over, and just bear with me as I plant these all up one-handed because I have my camera in the other hand. And I've kind of, just for aesthetic purposes, I've kept these fairly tall, and that's just because I think it'll be a little bit nicer that rather than just this being a propagation box, it can actually start to look nice as well. And now this piece, I'm gonna make sure, see how that's a bit dried out. More than likely the roots are gonna come from here. They won't come out of this overly dried place. I'm just gonna make a little hole, pop it in, and gently pat it in there. And so there we are. We'll see how this does. And yes, they are relatively crowded in here. I've found that snake plants don't really mind being crowded. This one looks pretty terrible. We'll see how that goes. Not all of these will make it. Some will probably rot. That's just the way it goes when you do propagations. It's sort of a numbers game. It just doesn't always work. So it's just a matter of being patient and understanding that it doesn't always work, and some leaves will work better than others. But I have found even with these like super janky leaves, sometimes they do work. So that's really it. I'm now going to leave this in a fairly warm place. I live in Southern California, so it stays fairly warm and dry. I'm not going to water it just yet. I'm going to leave it for a little bit because I am worried that there is still a risk some of these pieces may rot. I'm not going to store these in direct light. I'm going to put them in indirect light, and somewhere, like I said, fairly warm. If you have a greenhouse, that would be ideal. I don't think this pot will fit in mine. No, it definitely won't. Maybe it will. But I will keep you posted on how progress is going, and it's really that simple. So in my greenhouse, I did a little bit of a test of different types of snake plant propagation. We've got water, sphagnum moss, perlite, and soil. This is water. These have been in, and it has been several months, and finally, you'll see, look how many little pups are coming out of that. And I think the same goes for all of the pieces in here. They all have roots. Some pieces just take longer than others. This is perlite, and some of these, you know, look at that. I might even plant that in the soil, but you'll notice this is a pup. This is that leaf's baby. That one is pretty well stuck in there. This one maybe might join its friends over here. But that's grown all of those roots in perlite, and it's nice and green because it does get exposed to sun. Here's some more perlite pieces. You see how small this piece was. Like, that is maybe 2 inches tall. It's just really the tip of a leaf. It's grown a whole new baby. Same with this piece here. Again, this one's kind of out. These might just be better off being transferred to this soil. We've got some that I put in sphagnum moss. Again, these are really tiny, short pieces, and I could have messed up here because they're in a very small glass jar, and they're pretty stuck in there. Once the pups come out, it's possible I might have to break them out of there, but you can see that they've grown roots, and they quite possibly, yep, there's a little pup growing inside there. And finally, the soil one. This one grew the pup the fastest. So the perlite grew roots quicker, And it's got pups now, but the soil piece grew the pup the quickest. And you can see that's not a huge piece. This is a part of a leaf, so it wasn't a full leaf. And that's looking pretty good as far as a snake plant. So I think pretty soon I will be transferring these pups into a larger pot all together when I find the time. So growing snake plant from cuttings is, as you can see, it's pretty simple. It's not fail safe, and it does take a long time. I mean, we're talking about nearly 8 or 9 months for these ones to get to the stage that they're at. But if you have the time and the inclination, you can absolutely get more free plants forever. Please follow along if you want more tips and tricks on how to propagate your plants, how to get more free plants, how to make your existing plants go further. Don't forget to also check out my TikTok and Instagram. And thanks again for joining Free Plants Forever.